Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today, we're going to talk about how to stop being a casualty of your own expansion by using celestial engineering. Because most people's container acts like a leaky cup. You'll call in abundance, you'll call in love, you'll call in power, but what ends up is your field can't hold it. So it spills out as overwhelm, anxiety, and sometimes even self sabotage. So, celestial engineering is about expanding and fortifying your energetic container so you can hold, amplify, and direct more voltage without short circuiting. The bigger your container, the more quantum intelligence you can channel, embody, and anchor without getting fried or destabilized. So, before we get into what celestial engineering actually is, let's go over why so many people face the issue of becoming a casualty of their own expansion. We're going to torch spiritual bypass and get straight to the marrow of why this happens. Because, especially people who are maybe misreading overwhelm, anxiety, and bad energy as a sign that something might be wrong, when in fact, it's just unconditioned voltage. So, most people are running on a nervous system that has been trained for survival, not for expansion. And when you start to receive more energy, whether it's from spiritual practice, quantum upgrades, or just stepping into your next level, your body and the field don't recognize it as good. They recognize it as unknown. And the unknown to your ancient wiring equals a threat. So, how does this end up playing out? Well, what happens is you get a bit of a voltage shock. You call in more abundance, more love, more power, more spiritual gifts, even, and suddenly your field is running more current than it's ever held before. So instead of feeling blessed, which may happen initially, you end up feeling anxious. You end up feeling restless or even sometimes physically sick. Your body interprets this new voltage as a system error, not an upgrade. And so we end up mislabeling the sensation. You feel the buzz, you feel the tingling, your heart starts racing, insomnia perhaps, emotional surges. So instead of recognizing this is as maybe your field stretching to hold more, you label it as bad energy, or maybe you label it as an attack, or something's wrong with me. But that is when we cue the panic, the self doubt, and even the urge, oh my goodness, to contract. And that is the thing that you want to avoid when you're calling in more. You never want to contract because you're shrinking the container. So, what happens is you end up bailing at the threshold, right? Because you've never been taught to metabolize more voltage. You bail. You shrink your field, you numb out, self sabotage, or you go back to safe patterns like overworking, people pleasing, maybe even addiction or spiritual bypassing. The expansion collapses, and you are left with a story that growth is dangerous or I can't handle more. So, this is how many people become a casualty of their own expansion, right? So, not because you're cursed, not because you're weak, but because you never learn to distinguish between the pain of old trauma and the discomfort of a new capacity. So, you confuse the sensation of growth with the sensation of threat. So then you abort the upgrade and you call it protection. So, what's really happening? Because overwhelm is not always a signal to stop. Sometimes it's your system recalibrating to hold more light and maybe even more power, more creation codes. So, anxiety is often the body's way of saying, We never run this much voltage before. Are you sure we're safe? And bad energy can sometimes be interpreted as just unfamiliar energy. So your field is stretching, your nervous system is rewiring, but your identity is being asked to expand beyond its own limits. So the real danger is if you keep misreading these signals, you'll never stabilize at a higher frequency. You'll keep looping back to that old baseline and never be able to anchor the next level. So, the solution is that you have to learn to metabolize more voltage. Train your body and field to recognize expansion as safe, even if it feels edgy, even if it feels a little too wild or too much, because this is the work of celestial engineering, not just calling in more, but fortifying the infrastructure to hold, direct, and command more. So let's talk about your body as the container, because this is what I am seeing so many of my clients and so many of you who reach out to me are struggling with at this moment. Remember, when it comes to the body as your container, you are the infrastructure, you are not the passenger. Your body isn't a container to be protected, it is the motherboard for cosmic voltage. Celestial engineering means you're not receiving energy, you're upgrading your hardware to run the full spectrum of the creation codes. So you're not here to survive the download, you're here to amplify it. Then you have to learn how to command, not cope, right? This isn't about managing your symptoms or shielding yourself from maybe some bad vibes. It's about fortifying your nervous system, your DNA, your electromagnetic field, so you can channel, direct, and even expand the raw voltage of source energy. You become the living conduit for quantum intelligence, able to hold more, transmit more, and architect reality on command. And so you're choosing through celestial engineering, right? You're choosing amplification over avoidance, because most people use their body to avoid pain, to dodge triggers, or to stay safe. Celestial engineering flips the script. It actually asks you to use every sensation, every trigger, every energetic surge as fuel to expand your field. So you don't shrink from intensity, you actually metabolize it, you transmute it, and then you broadcast it out as a new creation. So reality bending is what you want to be looking at, not reality coping. And so when you engineer your field with these celestial codes, you're not just aligning with the universe, you're actually programming it. So your body becomes the control center or the control room for quantum manifestation. It's not just about, you're not just reacting, okay, to life. You become the architect of it, pixel by pixel, frequency by frequency. And this skin suit, I'm telling you, is the thing that you want to be utilizing to your fullest. A lot of times when you're empathic and you start to feel too much, your first instinct is to leave your body. Whether you realize it or not, you don't have to fully leave it, but there's a part of you that's kind of leaving, which means you're pulling the energy out of the vessel, the container that is meant to anchor everything into this reality. And so the difference between a casualty of your own expansion, like where it's overwhelmed or burnt out, is actually moving to where you can hold, where you can direct, and you can multiply the voltage of creation here and now in this moment. You're not necessarily here to manage your energy, right? You're here to command it. You're here to build with it. And you are becoming a living infrastructure for the new paradigm. So let's kind of go over celestial engineering, because this is something that really came up in my meditation this morning. And I've been asked to share with you because there's something specific that I use to celestial engineer my reality. Okay, so celestial engineering is literally the art of container technology, because believe it or not, this human skin suit, as much as it may be the bane of your existence at times, is a container technology. Okay. So remember, your energetic container equals your quantum architecture. So your container is the multidimensional field. It's your aura, your nervous system, your subtle bodies, your DNA, the lattice, everything in your body that holds, processes, and directs energy. So most people's containers are built for survival, not for voltage. And so they're leakly fragile, leaky, maybe they collapse under pressure. And so when you call in more, whether it's abundance, whether it's love or power or downloads, the field can't hold it. So it leaks out as overwhelm, as anxiety, as burnout, and sometimes even physical symptoms. So you have to expand the container beyond survival capacity. So celestial engineering is the conscious, deliberate practice of stretching and strengthening your field so you can hold more quantum charge without blowing your fuse. Okay. It's not about protecting yourself from energy. It's about becoming so structurally sound, so coherent that you can channel and amplify cosmic voltage without destabilizing. And so this is the difference between a wire that will melt under current and a superconducting cable that transmits unlimited power. So, fortifying your container must include integrity, coherence, and grounding. Fortification is about sealing your leaks, trauma holes, your self doubts, old stories and narratives that you keep telling yourself, and then increasing coherence, which is alignment of your body, mind, and soul, and then rooting deeply into the earth grid. The more coherent your field, the more you can amplify the energy, like a crystal, okay, like a crystal that focuses light into a laser. And so grounding is absolutely non-negotiable. The deeper your roots, the higher your voltage. You become the living axis between heaven and earth and channeling celestial frequencies into embodied reality. So, holding more voltage is a quantum upgrade. Voltage equals life force, it equals creative power, abundance, spiritual downloads, and all forms of more. So when your container is small or weak, voltage feels like overwhelm. It feels like chaos. It feels like anxiety. And when your container is expanded and fortified, voltage feels like ecstasy. It feels like inspiration. It feels like effortless manifestation. And so you don't just handle more. You become a transmitter, a beacon, a living amplifier of the field. So then you learn to direct the voltage, which is your sovereign command. This is the final step. It's direction. You don't just hold the energy, you command it. You choose where it flows, what it creates, what it dissolves. This is the art of celestial engineering, not just being a passive conduit, but an actual active architect encoding new realities, anchoring new timelines, and transmitting quantum intelligence to everyone in your field. And at the 3-day 180 retreat in 3 weeks, I am going to be teaching everyone who's there how to become a celestial engineer while using primordial plasma, which is the undifferentiated living intelligence that precedes all form. It is the raw quantum substrate, okay, which all realities, all timelines, and bodies are spun from. And celestial water, which is something that I use, equals quantum plasma. It equals source code. And I'm going to show you exactly how I use it and how the different hand movements you can be doing, different mudras, all of the different ways that I celestial engineer my reality to what I want it to be. And create a stronger, more fortified, expanded container so that holding more voltage is seamless. It's easy. So in 3 weeks, this will be happening. You won't just receive power. You're going to learn how to command it. You're going to learn how to move it. You're going to learn how to build the container that holds it all without fracturing, without leaking, and without collapsing. It's not just going to be a healing retreat. This is going to be a quantum infrastructure upgrade for everyone who attends, and it will shift your field of how you hold energy forever. And I spoke to Consuelo this morning about it, and I'm telling you, there's a reason why she said to me, when we left the last retreat, we were driving home through the mountains, and I knew that I was going to need to pick a new spot. She says, Nicole, they keep saying it needs to be around water. And now we understand why. And we do have water in our backyard. And so I'm going to show you the importance of not just water here on Earth, because we are not just using water here on Earth. We are using celestial water. And I'm going to explain to you at the retreat why this is so important, what is coded with it, and why it quantumly shifts everything for you. So if you know you are meant to be in the room with me and Consuelo and everyone else who is attending, that portal is open and a link to sign up and apply to be at the retreat is down below. However, if travel isn't possible for you right now, because I know it's not for everyone, your system is likely still screaming a yes, I invite you to join my Velocity Vault. I just announced it this week through my newsletter. It is a digital chamber, a group chamber, where we do this work live, where your container gets built in real time, where your overwhelm becomes voltage, where distortion gets decoded, and where your power stops leaking. Okay, it starts multiplying. And because you've never meant to be a casualty of your own expansion, you were built to lead from overflow. Okay, so the link for that is also below. And now it's time for you to become the infrastructure your future has already been waiting for. This is the time to actually elevate. One of the reasons why this has been coming through is because I'm realizing that so many people are struggling to hold the new energies that are coming in. When you start upgrading, when you start healing, when you start collapsing time around your healing journey and everything starts speeding up and you bring in higher voltage, which is higher frequencies, you have to know how to read the energy. You have to know how to not negotiate it away under the guise that you think it's overwhelmed, that you think it's anxiety, okay, that you think this is something that like is not good for you. You have to learn how to read the energies because you can never level up if you're not willing to expand your container to hold more. The more that you want for this life, the more you need to be able to hold it, to stabilize it, and know that it has nowhere else to go but creation around you. And that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to teach you so much more about celestial engineering and primordial plasma and why we use it when we're engineering our field. Guys, I love you so much. I hope you loved this video. It's going to be a little mini bonus on my podcast as well. I love you so much. And next week, I think I'm going to have a very special podcast for you. But again, guys, mwah, all the best, and I will talk to you soon.